different institutions in AP and Telangana ante?
Sir, I didn't get you.
Live study.
ఈ జాబ్ రాకముందే ఎక్కడ చేశారు?
Different schools, sir.
Live start అయింది. You please stop. All of you stop the discussion.
Very good morning, all the viewers and the webinar team. It's my privilege to introduce Mrs. K. Joshi Prasanna, postgraduate teacher in physics from Telangana Model School, Velimela, Ramachandrapuram Mandal, Sangareddy district. It's my privilege to introduce her. I undoubtedly feel that she's an asset to my institution. So she's one of the strong pillars of my institution. She has done masters in physics from one of the top 10 colleges in India, Loyola College, Chennai. And she has done her bachelor degree. She was one of the top rankers from Loyola College. She has a vast experience in teaching in various institutions from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So she hails from Godavari district in Andhra Pradesh. Presently, she is the postgraduate teacher at Telangana Model School, Velimela, RC-Puram. As far as her personality is concerned, she is very outgoing and social, always have the goodwill to learn, very optimistic, and a very positive opinion and views about her life. She believes that classroom transaction is very useful and important. So in the present scenario, the session through online are inevitable. The topic which she is going to conduct today is ray optics and optical instruments. This is the first session in the series. So we would look forward for all the students making optimum utilization of her expertise and knowledge. I wish all the good luck to Mr. Joshi Prasanna and the students. Over to Mr. Joshi Prasanna for the session.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the live webinar session. I'm highly delighted and feel privileged to be part of this wonderful platform, Model Schools Telangana. I am grateful for the opportunity given to me. I thank the team of principals who are working on the screen and behind the screen to make it a wonderful one and a successful one. Thank you all. So let me introduce myself. I'm Joshi Prasanna, PGT Physics from Telangana Model School, Velimela, which belongs to RC-Puram Mandal. Children, today's topic is ray optics and optical instruments. This is from intermediate second year, second chapter. Okay. So first of all, to start anything, if we start with a good thought, it goes on well. So I believe in that. So here is a good thought for all of you. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. Have this positive thought. So let us straightly get into the topic, ray optics and optical instruments. So it has some subtopics. First of all, introduction, then reflection of light by spherical mirrors. Then I will also discuss refraction, where I will emphasize on total internal reflection, then refraction at spherical surfaces. In detail, we'll explain. I will also explain about refraction through prism, where I will give you the importance of the formation of rainbow in dispersion of prism. Then some natural phenomena due to sunlight, where I will explain also the reason for the blue color of the sky and why the sunrise and sunset seems to be red. Then lastly, we have optical instruments. Okay, children, for to explain all of them, we need some more sessions. But for today, I will just give you some introduction about light and some important phenomenon related to light. Then, what is reflection, laws of reflection, and refraction, laws of refraction. I will also discuss mirror equation and sign convention. Then, the role of mirrors and lens in our day-to-day life. Lastly, I will discuss about the defects of eye and how we can correct them. Okay. So first of all, what is ray optics? Ray optics is also called as geometrical optics. Children, how can we say geometrical optics? Suppose I ask you to draw a ray, what will you do? You will take a pencil and a scale and you try to do it. You try to draw it, isn't it? So, using geometrical principles along with geometrical instruments, if we explain the wave propagation of light, then it is called as ray optics. So, what is geometrical optics or ray optics? It is a study of optics that describes the wave propagation of light in terms of rays. Okay. Next, I will draw your attention to the points which you already know from your previous classes. That is your previous knowledge. First of all, whenever someone teacher asks you what is light, the first point you get on your lips is light is a form of energy. Isn't it, children? Next, light travels in a straight path. For this point, you might have conducted many activities also in your prior classes. Isn't it, children? The rectilinear propagation of light is studied well by all of you, I suppose. Then, you know the numerical value of the speed of light in vacuum. What is that? It is represented with capital C and it is 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meters per second. Suppose if you have to say that in centimeters, it is 3 into 10 to the power of 10 meters per second. Okay, next, light waves are the most common form of electromagnetic waves. Isn't it, children? Then, ray of light. How do we describe this ray of light? It is the path of the light wave traveling from one point to the other point. What is one point? One point is the source of light. From the source of light, if it is traveling to the another point, then we can consider that as a ray of light. Next one is beam of light. Children, you already know this word, but remember carefully because we will use it in later on in the slides. So beam of light is bunch of rays of light. So these are the some of the points which you are already clear about it. So first of all, what is reflection? Children, when you stand in front of a mirror, what do you observe? Of course, your beautiful image. It is because of the phenomenon called as reflection. So let me define for you what is reflection. Okay, children? So I take the help of this diagram. Look at the diagram carefully, all of you. See, the bluish part here is the smooth polished surface. As a mirror, I have taken it. Suppose you consider a light being traveling from a source. So the light which is coming from the source is represented by a ray here. So this ray is called as incident ray. Children, carefully observe whenever you draw ray diagrams or when you try to understand the ray diagrams, you should look at the arrow marks. Arrow marks gives the direction of that ray. Okay, listen carefully. So this is the incident ray. Then this incident ray strikes the surface at a point P. Do you all observe, children? Yes. What is this point called as? It is point of incidence. So after striking the mirror at this point of incidence, the ray is bouncing backwards. Can you observe, children? Yes, this ray which is bouncing backwards is called as reflected ray. So how can we define this reflection of light? It is when a ray of light approaches a smooth polished surface, the light ray bounces back. This phenomenon is nothing but the reflection of light. Here, I call your attention to one more point. See here, I have drawn a dotted line calling it as normal. Why do you draw normal, children? In the ray diagrams, we usually take the help of normal to understand the angles with respect to incident ray and reflected ray. What is angle of incidence here? The angle of incidence is the angle between the normal and the incident ray, and I have represented with I here. What is reflected angle? It is also the angle between the normal and the reflected ray. It is represented with smaller. So these are very important. So let's now understand what are laws of reflection. So this reflection is always governed by two principles. So here also I take the help of a diagram, same kind of diagram which you have already seen. So you know the terms here, I and R, I is the angle of incidence and R is the angle of reflection. Listen carefully, children. Look at the angles here. Angle of incidence is taken in somewhat in pink color and angle of reflection is taken in blue color. Look at the angles and tell me, are they equal? Yes, they are equal. So according to the first law of reflection, the angle of incidence is always equal to angle of reflection. That is why angle I equal to angle R. Okay, how can you say that? Based on the principle called? Yes, Fermat's principle. What does Fermat principle say as? It is, according to Fermat's principle, the light chooses a path which takes least time to travel. You all know, children, only a straight line path can move the light in a path where it takes least time. That is why these are the two straight lines and this is the least traveling path. Okay, least time taken for the path. Okay, so following this principle, we can say the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. Next, what is the second point or second law of reflection? Look at the incident ray and reflected ray, the normal. Are they all lying in the same plane, children? Are they in the plane above the mirror? Yes. According to second law of reflection, it is also confirmed that the incident ray, reflected ray and the normal drawn at the point of incidence all will be in the same plane. So these are the two important laws of reflection. Here, these laws are applicable also for curved surfaces, children. Okay, next our topic is types of curved mirrors. You all know already that there are two types of mirrors. Okay, so what is the first mirror you see in the picture here? It is concave mirror and the second mirror is convex mirror. Look at the concave mirror, children. The part which is painted in blue color is inside the curvature, isn't it? So when you have a part which is blue in color inwards, that is called reflecting surface. If this is the reflecting surface, where will you place the object, children? In front of the mirror, in front of the reflecting surface. Yes. Then what is the non-reflecting surface? The back portion. This portion is the non-reflecting surface. You all know, children, in plane surface, plane mirrors, which you usually use at home, is silvered back in the back of the mirror, isn't it? That surface only is called as non-reflecting surface. Similarly, reflecting surface for the convex mirror is outside the curvature. Can you observe, children? The bluish part which you observe is the reflecting surface, and the part which is silvered or which is painted, the other side, is called as non-reflecting surface. So keep in your mind and try to don't get confused with the mirrors here. If the reflecting surface is inwards, that is called concave mirror. If the reflecting surface is outside the curvature, then it is called convex mirror. Okay, children? So let me draw your attention to some important terminology that we use in ray optics. Okay, children? So look at the diagram here. This diagram here, this thing will give you, look at this and tell me which is the reflecting surface, non-reflecting surface. It is outside. That means what? Which is the reflecting surface? Inside. What type of mirror it is then? It is, yes, it is concave mirror. Okay, look at some terminology here. Okay, 1 minute. So here, if you observe, there is a word pole, aperture, focal length, focus, center of curvature, radius, principal axis. These are the different terms we have in this picture. First of all, let me draw your attention to what is pole. If you look at the concave mirror here, pole is the geometrical center of, or the geometric center of this concave surface. So what is pole? It is the geometric center of the mirror, and I represented it with the capital P here. Can you observe, children? Yes. Next, we will, if this concave surface is extended, we can simply say it is part of a sphere, isn't it? If this is the sphere, it has a center. So that center to which this curvature belongs is called as center of curvature. Next, you all know what is radius. But here the term is radius of curvature. What is radius of curvature? The distance from center of curvature to pole of the mirror. Okay, children? Next point is principal axis. If you observe the horizontal line which is passing through center of curvature and pole, this is nothing but the principal axis. It can be extended in both ways to the infinity. So this axis which is passing through the center of curvature and pole is called as the principal axis. Okay, children, did you understand what is pole of the mirror? It is the geometric center of the concave mirror or convex mirror. Then what is center of curvature? It is the center of the sphere through to which this curvature belongs. Next, what is radius of curvature? The distance from center of curvature to the pole. Next, what is principal axis? The line which is passing through the center of curvature and pole. Then we have remaining terms, focus and focal length, which I will be explaining in the next slide. So what is focal length of spherical mirrors? Look at the diagram, children. Here I have both concave mirror and convex mirror. Try to observe the first figure here. Listen here. So I told you in the beginning about beam of rays. So here I have chosen set of rays or a bunch of rays which you call it as beam of rays parallel to principal axis. So I told you in the beginning itself that you have to look at the arrow marks, isn't it? So what is the direction of these rays? Towards the mirror. So the first mirror we have here is concave mirror. The rays are traveling towards the mirror. What type of, what do we call these rays? These are incident rays. Okay, children. So these incident rays, after striking the surface of the concave mirror at these points, what is happening to the rays? You all observe the rays are trying to converge towards a point. They are trying to meet at a point on the principal axis. Do you all observe, children? Look at the arrow marks. These are reflected rays which are coming from the point of incidence. These rays trying to converge. I am using a word converge here. What does it mean? All the rays are trying to meet at a point. That is nothing but the convergence. Okay, children. So this point where all the reflected rays are meeting is called as focus. So look at the second diagram. For convex mirror also we will try to understand. Okay, listen carefully here. Children, look at the diagram. Here also I have chosen bunch of rays or beam of light rays where they are also striking the surface of the convex mirror on its reflecting surface. But if you see the behavior of reflecting rays here, they are not converging. They seem to be diverging away from the mirror. If you observe two rays clearly, that's why I didn't take too many rays so that you will get confused. Here, if you look at the rays, here the rays are getting moving away from the mirror. That means they are getting diverged, isn't it? But if you observe, if they are extended backwards, see, I have extended here with dotted lines. If they are extended, they seem to be coming from a point on the principal axis again, isn't it, children? So this point again is called as focus. So what is focus of a convex mirror? It is a point at which all rays parallel to the principal axis appear to diverge from after the reflection. So this point is called as focus. Children, looking at the diagram, did any of you get the doubt? What happened to the ray which is passing through the center of curvature in both the diagrams? If you get that doubt, you are on the track. You are able to understand, isn't it? See, look at the ray which is passing through center of curvature in both diagrams, where you observe the reflected ray is just traversing backwards. That means the ray which is passing through center of curvature always reverses back in the same path. This point also you should remember very clearly. Next, we have discussed now about focus. Focus is also called as principal focus and also focal point. Then what is focal length? So now you can clearly tell me what is focal length. It is the distance from focus to the pole of the mirror. Here also in the concave mirror also it is distance from the focal point to pole of the mirror. So what is focal length? It is the distance between pole of the mirror and the focal point. Here, if you observe the point F, the point F seem to be the midpoint of CP. Can you observe, children, in the diagram? This is the midpoint of CP, isn't it? If F is the midpoint of CP, what is the relation between, what is CP first of all? It is radius of curvature. What is the relation between radius of curvature and focal length? Radius of curvature, half the radius of curvature is focal length, or 2 times the focal length is the radius of curvature. So we have relation F is equal to R by 2. Then one more important point I would like to give you here is convex mirror, as we understood from this diagram and from my explanation, that convex mirrors are converging mirrors. Remember carefully, children, when we understand the lenses, you should not get confused. That's why remember this point carefully, keep it in your mind that concave mirrors are converging mirrors and convex mirrors are diverging mirrors. Okay, children, hope you all understood this slide. So let me get into the next slide. Next one is mirror equation. What is mirror equation? I have bolded it here. Clearly you can see it. All of you, are you noting down? Note down the points. See here, what is the relation? 1 by F is equal to 1 by V plus 1 by U. What is this relation? It is nothing but the relation between U, V and F. What is U? It is object distance. It is, what is V? It is image distance. How will you measure object distance? From the pole of the mirror to the object. Similarly, how will you measure image distance? From the pole of the mirror to the image. Okay, so focal length is related with both object distance and image distance with this equation. This equation is called as mirror formula or mirror equation. Okay, children, you already know that relation between R and F is equal to R by 2. These two equations or these two formulae is very important for your numericals, whether it is your IPE or some of the competitive exams. Okay, children, did you note down or take the screenshot of it? Next, the most important topic I have is sign convention for these spherical mirrors. Sign convention. In physics, if we represent any physical quantity, we always take the help of sign. Why? We have two types of physical quantities. What are they? Scalars and vectors. Vectors always follow by direction. So for this direction, we always represent these directions either with positive sign or negative sign. Here for spherical mirrors also, we have to calculate the distances. What are those distances? U, V and F. So while calculating them, you should follow some rules. So the sign convention we are using here is Cartesian sign convention. Okay. So what is the first rule? First rule is all the distances are measured from the pole of the mirror. Whether it is object distance, image distance or focal length, anything, the starting point should be pole of the mirror. So your measuring direction should start with P. That's what. Hope you understood that. Next, look at the diagram. If this is the concave surface, where should I place the object? Just towards my left. Yes, this is the position. I have considered the position of the object, A. If this is the object, what is the direction of incident light? Tell me, children. It is towards the mirror. Of course, from the object towards the mirror. This is the direction of incident light. So, you have to remember this point. Listen carefully to the second point. We know all the measurements should be taken from P. According to the second rule, if the measurements are taken in the direction of incident light, they should be considered or they should be taken positive. If they are measured in the direction opposite, this is the direction opposite to the incident light. If it is in this direction, then we have to consider it as negative. Here in this example, children, if you observe, this is the object, isn't it? So from P to A, if I have to measure from to this, what kind of sign I will get here? Is it in the direction of incident ray or opposite to the direction of incident ray? We know incident direction is this, and we are moving from pole of the mirror towards AB. So therefore, we can take this object distance as minus, negative. That means if its magnitude is 10 centimeters, then object distance should be taken as minus 10 centimeters. Hope children you understood the second point. Next, the third point. So when you measure either height of the object or height of the image, if it is above the principal axis, the height should be taken as positive. If it is below the principal axis, the height should be taken as negative. Hope children, you got these 3 points. First point, all the distances are measured from the pole of the mirror. Second point, the measurements which are taken in the direction of incident light is taken positive. The measurements which are taken in opposite to the direction of incident light taken negative. The heights above the principal axis are taken positive and heights below the principal axis are taken negative. So it's very important for your numericals, for as most of you are preparing for your competitive exams. It's very, very important, children. If you have any doubt, you can drop your doubt in the message boxes also. I will clear it in the later sections, later on sessions. Next important topic is characteristic of a concave mirror. So using these characteristics only, we can utilize them in our day-to-day life. So first of all, using concave mirror, we have both real and virtual images. Yes, children, you might be remembering your ray diagrams which you have drawn in your previous classes, isn't it? After drawing all of them, you had a concluding table also where you explained which are the behavior of the images. So where you get both real and virtual images using concave mirrors. So when the object is at infinity, a point image is formed. Here, I would like to draw your attention to the activity which you have done in your previous classes. You have taken a concave mirror and facing it towards the sun, taken a paper as a screen and make the arrangement so that you get the image of the sun on a paper, isn't it? So what type of image you got? A bright spot on the mirror. That means when the object is at infinity, sun is at infinity, so you got a point image. Okay, then for a distant object, that means when you place the object at a longer distances, that is beyond center of curvature, then always you get a diminished image. That means a smaller image compared to the actual size of the image. You get diminished image and also real image. Here, children, I like to give you the difference between real and virtual images also. What is real image? You already know it, but what is real image? It is the image which is formed on the screen, which can be formed on the screen, which is caught on the screen is called real image. What is virtual image? This cannot be caught on the screen. It is just seen within the mirror itself. So this is virtual mirror, virtual images. This is the difference between the virtual images. So when do you get virtual image, children? When with respect to concave mirror, when you place the object very close to the mirror only, you get a virtual image and same time a magnified image. What do you mean by magnified image? Image bigger than the actual size of the object. Okay, so what are the characteristics? Images are both real and virtual. When the object is at infinity, a point image is formed. For distant objects, the image is diminished and real. And when the object is kept very closer to the mirror, the image is virtual and magnified. So using these characteristics, we have many applications of these concave mirrors. What are those applications? These are mainly used in beauty parlors and saloons as shaving mirrors, isn't it? Then they are also used in head mirrors by doctors and some of the employees who are working in the mining department. Okay, then the most important application is ophthalmoscope. You look at the ophthalmologist, the picture of the ophthalmologist here, he is having an instrument in his hand. This is called ophthalmoscope. It has a small hole at the center through which the light is just focused, through which he will be able to see the entire portion of retina in our eye. So in this instrument, these concave mirrors are used. Then they are also used in astronomical telescopes, then headlights of our vehicles, four-wheelers. Okay, so they are used as headlights and also torchlights, and it is used also by dentists because it has virtual and magnified image. Okay, children, remember these points. Next thing is, what are characteristics of convex mirrors? So characteristics of convex mirrors are very simple. They are always virtual, and that means you don't get real images. You cannot catch these images on the screen. So images are always virtual and they are always lesser in size. compared to the actual size. That is why they are diminished. So remember these points, children. Look at the applications of convex mirrors too. What are those applications? These are used in inside the buildings. Why they are used? To have the to have the portion. So to look at the entire building, they are arranged in a corner so that it can be, the entire building can be viewed through that mirror. Then vehicle rear view mirrors. It is a very important application, children. When the driver which is sitting inside the car should be able to have the control over the cars which are coming backwards. So he should have the view of them. There he should use the rear view mirrors. In that he should be using convex mirrors. Okay, next it is also used as magnifying glass. Then it is also used for security purposes in ATMs and in some of the secret places to observe different things in the happening there. Okay, children. Next, we will understand the refraction. So the concept of reflection, hope you all understood. Now we'll get into the next topic, refraction. So what is refraction in daily life? Most of you must be wondering, looking at the rainbow. These days we are seeing many days the rainbows, isn't it? They seem to be capturing our mind. We are wondered looking at these rainbows. So what is the reason behind that? It is refraction. You might have seen lemon put in the some glass of water in some shops as a sentiment they used to keep. So if you observe the size of the lemon, it seems to be bulged inwards inside, isn't it? That means it is looking bigger than its actual size. So what is the reason again? It is refraction. Here I have given a funny example where a cat is peeping through the glass tub of water. Okay, here also the image of cat is bulged. It is looking bigger than its actual size. So what is the reason for it? It is refraction. Here, children, I would like to draw your attention to a small activity. I have downloaded it. Please carefully observe it. It is an amazing arrow trick. Listen carefully, children. Look at the diagram. Here I have a paper drawn two arrow marks towards my left. Placing in front of it a glass. Slowly, I am trying to pour water in it. Look at the arrow which is at the bottom. What happened to the direction of the arrow? Is it in the same direction now? Why? Why it is happening? Did we change the direction? No, we haven't changed. But when you poured water in the glass, the direction of the arrow mark is being changed. Isn't it? What could be the reason, children? Think, all of you. Now I am pouring some more water in it. Look at the second arrow also. What is happening? This arrow is also changing its direction. The arrows are in my left, but when we place the glass of water, filled with water, the direction of arrow is changing. Children, what is the reason for it? Yes, you are right. It is nothing but the refraction. So the reason for this amazing arrow trick is refraction. Okay, children. Next thing is, I have one minute. So I'll define here what is refraction. Okay, children. So what is refraction? Refraction is, look at the diagram again. It is clearly seen. A straw is kept in a glass of water. Look at the straw as if it is bent. It is seen at the boundary of these two surfaces. It seems as if it is broken and bent, isn't it? What is the reason for it? It is the refraction. Again, whenever, so how will I define this refraction? The bending of light. How this bending of light is taking place? only when light is traveling from one medium to the other medium. Here, what is medium, children? Where the light travels, the medium in which the light travels. What are the two media present here? One is air, the other one is water, isn't it? So the refraction is the bending of light ray when it enters a medium where its speed is different. Why? What is the reason for refraction? The speed of light is different in different media. When it is traveling, it is having a speed, and when it is entering into the water, it is having a different speed. That is why the ray of light is being bent here. Okay, children. So we can define it like this. Refraction is the change in the direction of light ray passing from one medium to another. Hope you understood the refraction, children, the definition of refraction. Next, I would like to draw your attention to one more activity on refraction. Look at the activity, children, all of you. This is also for it is also a very simple activity which you can do at home. Look at the things needed, material needed for it: bowl, coin, and water. Taking a coin, placing it in a bowl, and slowly move away from the bowl. Okay, children, where you can't see the coin. So just stand there and ask one of your friends to pour water in the bowl. Look at the coin, which is unseen, which is not there, which was not there, is appearing now when you poured the water. Can you observe, children? Your position has not changed, but you are able to observe the coin. Now, same thing with two bowls. In one bowl, I poured water, so the reappearance of the coin has taken place. But in the second one, I haven't poured water. Therefore, there is no refraction, which means whenever there is a change in media, only the refraction is taking place. Isn't it, children? So, for the refraction to take place, we need two media. So, whenever light ray travels from one medium to another medium, it always bends because its speed is different. Okay, children. Now, let me draw your attention to types of lenses. So, we have different types of lenses: biconvex, because it has both sides convex surface, it is biconvex. Bi means two. Next, we have one side plane surface and another side convex surface. That is why it is plano-convex. Next one, it has both convex and concave surfaces. So convex concave, and it is also called as meniscus when curvature is more. Then we have a plane surface and concave surface. So it is plano-concave. Then we have both sides concave surface. That is why it is called biconcave. Okay, children, these are the different types of lenses we have. Here, the basic terms which you already known for reflection are similar for this spherical lenses also. Here I have taken both convex lens and concave lens. Biconvex lens, biconcave lens. Look at the terminology used here: optical center. The only difference you have there, the geometric center of that is called pole, if you remember, isn't it? Here, the geometric center of lenses is nothing but the optical center, and it is represented with O. Okay, children. Next, what is radius of curvature? Same as before. And you have to note the point here, because it has two surfaces, it will have two center of curvatures. Same time, it has two foci, isn't it? So same thing with concave mirror also. So the line joining or the line passing through center of curvature and the optical center is nothing but, in both the diagrams you can see the horizontal line. It is again principal axis. Very good. Then the radius of curvature is the distance from the center of curvature to the optical center, that is represented with R. Then what is focus? You know, for converging lens, for diverging. That I will explain in the next slide. Now look at the focal points here. Though, so as similar to the mirrors, focal length is nothing but the distance from optical center to the focus. Okay, children? So now one more important point you should remember here is refractive index. I said whenever refraction takes place, the ray is bending. Why this reflected ray is bending? The reason we have already explained and known that it is because the speed of light is different. So what is making the speed of light to be different in different media? It is this index of refraction. Each material has its own index of refraction. So how fast or how slow a light can travel in the material is represented by the index of refraction or refractive index. Okay, children, it is given by the relation. The refractive index is represented with small n and it is the ratio of C and V. What are C and V, children? You know already what is C? It is speed of light in vacuum. And again, what is V? It is speed of light in the medium in which the ray is reflecting. So the refractive index can be taken as the ratio of two velocities. That is the velocity of light in vacuum and the velocity of light in the medium. Because it is the ratio of same type of quantities, velocity by velocity. Therefore, it is dimensionless. Isn't it, children? It has no units. It means it has no units. Hope it is clear, children. So now we will understand the refractive indices of different materials. Why should you know this? Because if you know refractive index only, you should know how much a light ray gets refracted in that surface, in that substance, isn't it? That is why I'm giving you some values here. The index of refraction for vacuum is 1 and for air it is 1.000277. For water it is 1.33333. For ice it is 1.31. For glass it is about approximately 1.5 because we have different types of glasses, isn't it? Then for diamond it is 2.417. If you look at the index of refraction of diamond, it is 2.417 maximum. It is because of this characteristic only the diamond is lustrous. It is shining brightly. It is because of this character. Okay, children, look at the values. Air, vacuum, these are gaseous substances. Water, ice is liquid substances. Glass and diamond are solid substances. So as you are moving from gases to, that means as you are increasing the density, isn't it? Do you understand the density means? Density, the number of molecules in a volume. So for air and vacuum, the air molecules are, the density is very less compared to liquids and gases. Therefore, if you observe the values of refraction, as the density is increasing, so from top to bottom, the density is increasing. Similarly, the index of refraction or the refractive index is also increasing. Remember this point very clearly, children. As the density increases, index of refraction also increases. Okay. So this point is useful for us later on when we discuss mirages. So be very careful to remember this point. Next one, laws of refraction. So the first law is also called as Snell's law. What is Snell's law? Sin I by sin R is equal to constant. So what is I and R, children? You know it already. I is angle of incidence, R is angle of refraction. Okay, so the ratio of angle of sine of angle of incidence to sine of angle of refraction is always constant. This constant is also the refractive index of that medium where the light ray is being refracted. So this law is also called as Snell's law. You have to remember, children, what is Snell's law? Sin I by sin R is equal to constant. What is second law? It is very much similar to the second law of reflection. That is, the incident ray, the refracted ray at the point and the normal at the point of incidence all lie in the same plane, same as the second law of reflection. Hope you understood, children. This is about the laws of refraction. Next, different types of lenses. What are they? Convex lens and concave lens. Okay, children, look at the convex lens. The rays are getting converged. Look at the concave lens. I have a small animation here. The rays are getting diverged. So this is convex lens. This is concave lens. Isn't it? If you observe carefully, convex lens, through convex the rays are getting converged. Through concave lens, the rays are getting diverged after reflection. So I have concave lens diagram again here. See how the rays are getting diverged, isn't it? But they seem to be coming from a point called F. So with these GIFs, hope you understood the concept here. So here with a ray diagram, I like to explain to you what is focal length of convex lens and concave lens. Look at the first diagram. This is converging lens. Why it is converging lens? It is convex lens. If you observe, it is biconvex. So biconvex lens always behaves as converging lens. How can you say that? Look at this diagram. I have chosen rays parallel to the principal axis. These incident rays, after striking the lens, they are trying to converge at a point on the principal axis. This point is called as focal point. And if you observe, all these rays are converging towards a point. That is why biconvex lens is also called as converging lens. And the distance from focus to this lens is called focal length. Look at the second diagram. So look at the second diagram here. Here I have taken biconcave lens. Again, shows the rays parallel to the principal axis. They are all striking the surface of the lens and they are diverging. If you observe the direction of the rays, they are getting diverged from the lens. So what do you call this concave lens? Concave lens is acting as diverging lens. Hope children you got the point here. Now, you learned about mirrors. There you learned what is converging mirror and diverging mirror. In lenses also you have learned what is converging lens and diverging lens. So comparatively we will study now. So with respect to mirrors, look at the bottom portion. The first diagram here is concave mirror. Look at the rays after refraction. The red lines are after refraction, refracted rays. Are they converging? Yes. Look at the convex lens. The refracted rays are converging lens. So you have to remember the point that converging lens is convex lens. Converging mirror is concave mirror. Okay, children, keep this in mind. The converging lens is convex lens. Converging mirror is concave mirror. Next, look at the right portion of the diagram. The upper one is concave lens. Look at the refracted rays which are red in color. They are getting diverged, moving away. That means this is diverging lens. Similarly, look at the convex mirror. So after striking the surface on the mirror, they are bouncing backwards, but they are getting diverged, isn't it? So the concave lens and convex mirror always behaves as diverging. They always diverge, and whereas convex lens and concave mirror, they converge. Okay, children, there are situations where convex lens also behaves as diverging lens. That I will explain to you later. Okay, for time being, you remember this, convex lens and concave mirror behave as converging lenses and mirrors, and the other two behave as diverging. Okay, children? Next one, eye defects. So what are the defects we have? First one is myopia and second one is hypermetropia. First of all, look at the diagram here, children. The normal eye, the functioning of normal eye is clearly depicted with this picture. Here I have an object, a rose. From that, rays are entering the lens and they are converging at a point. What is the screen we have inside the eye? That is nothing but the retina. Yes, for a clear vision of any picture, we should have these rays be converging on the retina. If these rays don't converge on the retina, what happens? Yes, we get into eye defects. So what are the two important eye defects? Myopia and hypermetropia. First of all, what is myopia? Let us observe. Look at the diagram here. See, the rays which are coming from the object, they are not converging on the retina. Where do they converge? They converge before the retina. Isn't it, children? So when they converge before the retina, can you see the object clearly? No, you can't see. That means this type of defect is called as myopia. Because of this defect, you can see only the objects which are closer by, but you cannot see the objects which are far away from your eye. That means which are distant, the distant objects cannot be seen clearly. Okay, so the ability to see close objects and the disability to see the distant object is called as myopia. So where is the image formed because of myopia? It is formed before the retina, as you see in the picture here. Okay, that means the convergence is happening before the retina, which means what should you do to correct this convergence? We have to increase its divergence. That means what type of lens we use, children, to increase the divergence? Diverging lens. What is that? Biconcave lens. Look at the diagram here. If you use biconcave lens, what is happening? The rays are again converging at a point on the retina. Because of this, you will be able to observe the object clearly. Hope children you understood this slide. Myopia is the short sight or nearsightedness. You are able to see only the objects closer by. You are not able to see the objects which are far. Next, it can be corrected using biconcave lens. Okay, children, let us look at the next defect, hypermetropia. Look at the hypermetropia. The person infected with this hypermetropia, the rays from the object, see where they are converging. Are they converging on the retina? No, they are converging beyond the retina. If you observe, that means they have a different sight. What is that sight? They will be able to see distant objects, but they will not be able to see the images closer by. So such type of defect is called as hypermetropia because the image is formed not on the retina but beyond the retina. Okay, children. Next, if how do you correct this hypermetropia? You have to decrease the convergence, isn't it? So for that, you have to use convex lens. Biconvex lens is used to correct hypermetropia. Hope children you all understood what is hypermetropia? The ability to see distant objects. And the image is formed beyond the retina and it can be corrected by using convex lens. Okay, children. And the ray diagrams concerning this point are very important. That's why I have given some diagrammatic representation here. Look at the diagrams. All of you carefully draw these diagrams or take a screenshot of it. Myopia and its correction, hypermetropia and its correction. Children, you all get confused with these two defects most of the time. I know it. Myopia is short sight, hypermetropia is long sight. How do you remember them? I'll give you a small trick. Look at myopia and hypermetropia. Which is the bigger word? Hypermetropia is the bigger word. Which is the smaller word? Myopia. So myopia is short sight and hypermetropia is long sight. Remember like that. Okay, children, this is a small trick which is useful for you in the examination point of view. Okay, children, myopia is a short sight. Sight here, sight means you are able to see, ability to see. Okay, don't be in the misconception that sight is some defect. No, sight is the ability to see. So myopia is a short sight and hypermetropia is a long sight. Hope children, have you taken the screenshot of it? If you have any doubt, drop your doubt in the message box. Next important point is power of lens. So what is power of lens? Now we have eye defects. Where do we go? We go to ophthalmologist, isn't it? So he will suggest a lens for you. Suppose, I will give you a small example. You and your friend, let's say both of you have myopia. I don't wish it, just for an example. Okay, if you have myopia, suppose in the class, if you exchange your lenses, will it be okay? Will it be okay? No. Why? Because the power of his myopic eye is different from the power of your eye, isn't it? That is why the power should be learned to understand what type of lens should be suggested. That means, what does power of lens means? It is the ability of lens to converge or diverge the beam of light falling on it. Okay, so if you have large focal length, that means you have smaller power. If you have smaller focal length, you have large power. That is why power is equal to reciprocal of focal length, or 1 by focal length, which is 1 by f. Okay, children. So what is the SI unit of power? It is diopter. Say all of you, diopter. And it is represented with capital D. Okay, children. So diopter is the power of lens when only when f is equal to 1 meter. Usually we take focal length in centimeters, isn't it? But diopter can be used only when f is equal to 1 meter. If the focal length is given in centimeters, you can convert into meters, then we can use the unit diopter. Okay, then when focal length is 1 meter, the power is 1 diopter. Okay, children. So here you should also remember a point. For convex lens, the power is always positive, and for concave lens, the power is always negative. Hope children you understood this slide. Have you written down? Otherwise, take the screenshot. Okay, let me get into the next topic, that is applications of convex lens. We have seen different characteristics of convex lens. So what are those characteristics? They are always like similar to the concave mirror, isn't it? So same type of characteristics are there for convex lens also. You remember what are the principal characteristics for concave mirror? Both real and virtual images, point images are formed. When the object is at far away distance, the images are diminished. When the objects are closer, the images are virtual and magnified. Same thing is applied here also. So these convex lens, because of those characteristics, they are used to correct. You have already seen they are used to correct hypermetropia. They are used in simple cameras. They are also used as magnifying glass. They are used in microscopes, telescopes, and projectors. Okay, children. Next, what are the applications of concave lens? We already discussed it is used to correct myopia. They are used also in binoculars and telescopes. And mainly they are used as a spy holes in doors. Okay, children, you understood what is spy hole? Here a girl is looking at through the spy hole. Now you understood? Yes. They are mainly used in lasers. Nowadays, constructing lasers. In this also, these are widely used. Okay. Next, they are used as flashlights. Okay, children. So these are some of the applications of concave lens. And here I have the courtesy of the diagrams or the videos which I have downloaded. Then let us, so children, that's all for today. So what we have learned, we'll just go through. First of all, reflection and its laws. Have you understood, children? Yes. Then there's some important terminology related to ray optics. Next, we have also discussed types of spherical mirrors and its behavior. Then applications of mirrors in real life. We discussed refraction and its laws, where we discussed about Snell's law. You remember, children? Then the refractive index. Next, refraction through curved surfaces. Okay, then lastly we have discussed also application of lenses in our day-to-day life. Okay, children. So after understanding all of them, I won't call it as an assignment. You can think and discuss these questions. First question is, what do you understand by reflection? I think you will be able to tell me now, isn't it? Next, find the radius of curvature of concave mirror with a focal length of 5 centimeters. That means what equation you have to use here? F is equal to R by 2. Yes. Next one, a converging lens is kept coaxially in contact with the diverging lens, both the lenses being of equal focal length. So you have to, this is a food for your brain, children. You think very well and give me the answer in the next session. What is the focal length of the combination? You have to find out. Okay. Next one. A glass of lens of refractive index is 1.5. When it is placed in a trough of liquid, what must be the refractive index so that the lens will disappear in water? That means you should not be able to see the lens in the water. So then what should be the refractive index of the lens? So these are some of the points you can discuss with your friends and let me know the answers. Okay, children, that's all for today. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Joshi. It was a wonderful session. I look forward for similar sessions in future, so probably next week
Yes,
or
sir.
so. So it was a wonderful session, and hope the students made optimum use of the session. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Children, if you have any doubts, you can drop in the message box. Later on also, I will respond to you. So if you have any doubts, if not now, you can tell me, you can contact me afterwards also. I will check your messages.